$147,000, to answer your question. And we're only asking you for $600,000, so you don't have to worry about coming up with any additional money. Is that something that we'll take care of?
But if we have a shortfall on the money, what is going to get pushed off? How is it going to be phased? And what would be, if we're $100,000 short, what gets left off?
Sure. Again, I don't anticipate that happening, just because we've had serious commitments to this project.
Worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario, I think that where you'd be leaving things off would probably be site lighting, would probably be one of the first things that would come off. You know, certainly the playground is the priority. The infields are the priority. And we may have to hold off on the new well and the irrigation. Basically, the other items that account for that $90,000
Yep.
is that if we weren't able to do those could be done in future phases. Now, you may ask, well, if you're gonna upgrade the infield, you need the well. Well, we have one well there. The second well was to do the entire complex. So if that second well needs to wait to a second or third phase, to answer your question, worst case scenario, those are the items that I would see would be getting pushed off.
So the other, including the bathrooms.
The other items that would be there, yes. Worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Again, I find that highly unlikely that that's going to occur. And again, speaking from experience on a managed project, I just don't see that happening, but you did ask the worst case scenario.
And the walking path, in phase one, will that be complete? Not, and I know it won't be complete around the entire complex, but will will there be a walking route at the end of phase one?
Could you answer
This-
the question
yes.
in the numbers?
If you look on the colored plan, everything that's in that dark brown color, it might not be dark brown on that printout because they're different printers, but
Yep.
this is all walking path for
And-
phase one.
Do you know how big an area that is?
No, I can't give you that number now. I know when we talked last time, the whole
The
overall
entire-
plan, the path that went all the way around the perimeter of it was a quarter mile.
Yeah, but that's
This-
way
this-
down the road.
Yeah,
So Tom, you've got, what do we say, it was 220 feet to the outfield from home field?
yeah, if that's
So you're about 300 per side?
150, 300. If you came back on this side, you probably got 600 feet. Three.
So what is that, about a tenth of a mile?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This portion of it is more the major circulation that gets you from the parking lot through the fenced-off gate into the complex. Now, this behind the Little League field is 20 feet wide, because it accommodates bleachers and people to be able to get by. That's 12 feet wide, which, as we talked last time, is access to be able to get like a pickup truck or small truck into the concession stand. This one was more for emergency access from the town property that's next door for emergency to be able to get to the fields, because now that this is closed off and fenced off, that's a long way to go if an ambulance needs to get somebody off this field, so that's here. So that portion of it is phase one.
And I know we're not being asked to fund this, but how much is it gonna cost to deconstruct the current playground?
So the cost to the existing playground is going to be, in essence, operation and maintenance labor or other volunteers. Where there would potentially be a cost is on what pieces of equipment we can salvage. And that's where we're going to, have to rely on the experts to retest and relook at that and see what can be done. If you're asking me a number, it's probably somewhere around $5,000. It's a small number. And you know, I would see that number, first of all, none of the deconstruction numbers are in here.
Yeah.
And again, that's a worst case scenario. I don't see it being a big number at all. You know me, I want to answer the questions. You asked them, I'm
Yep.
going to answer them.
Yep. Okay. That was my list.
And I could, if Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I mean, you know, I, having run the town's capital plan for the last 5 years, having overseen the construction of a new elementary school, a new sports complex at the middle high school, the door window repair roof job at the middle high school, what we're doing now for the police department, having all of those projects, the fire department, having all those projects come in under budget and running our capital projects, I am very confident that over time, we can fund the whole master plan. What I can't do today, Fran, is tell you it's going to be done in 7 years. I can't tell you that.
I know.
But I, with my professional opinion, is that over the next 10 years, we should be able to fund most, if not all of it, and if it's not 10, it's going to be 12 years. It's something around that I'm looking at, you know, tranches of around $250,000, $300,000 every 2 to 3 years to do the next phase.
So this phase is 750,
Yep.
and to complete the entire project, is it another 750 or another 1.5?
Tom?
I think what we said last time was the entire thing we were thinking was probably about 1.4-ish, give or take 100,000 for all of it. So
Okay.
take that and take the 750 out of
Out
that.
of it.
So, yes.
Yep, so this is about half.
This is the biggest
Yeah.
chunk, and it's the front piece
Yeah.
that kind of sets the stage for everything else. And when Tom put the plan together, is that he did it so that you don't have to touch this phase again. You come in another side of the park to do that next phase, and then you come in the back side to do the last phase, and that you can do all those without impacting the other ones.
Other questions from the committee? Jim?
Nothing at this time, no.
Zach? Gail? Questions or comments from the audience? If you're going to speak, please identify yourselves. Have you got the,
It's over
See
here.
over your microphone?
there should be a sign-in sheet that's going around for people to sign in as members of the audience. We appreciate you filling those out.
Hi, I'm Dagmar Ryan, 14 Lillian Way. As I'm listening and I'm looking, and I'm going to ask a question, so the dark brown part, it doesn't seem like the primary purpose is recreational walking, but it just happens you get to walk on a path that you need to have there anyway. So I don't know if I consider that a walking path. I don't think somebody's just going to go, I don't know. To me, it seems like it needs to be there, period. The other thing is, I said it once before, I keep thinking that the ball fields are suffering because the money that could go to fixing them up the way they want to fix it up is going to the play area, which I feel maybe was a little rushed, because when we looked 18, 19 years ago for a site, that ball field site was available, and there were reasons why we didn't put it there to begin with. So since this has all come around, I've looked at Pond Street, we have land available, and we have other areas, and I just keep thinking, why don't we just do it right and do it somewhere else? And then, you know, I don't see the rush in it, but I was a little curious about the walking path, because it seems like it's just there, and you can walk on it if you want. And I will have more questions as we come along. Thank you.
Can I just address the ball field, because I think it's an important piece that you brought up before?
Good.
Is that when you're building a ball field, it takes almost 2 years for the outfield to come into play.
Right, I understand that.
And that's why with the new elementary school that we have 2 softball fields there, but we have to let them sit and grow and the turf to grow up. If you build on where the ball fields are, as you're suggesting, there are no other Little League ball fields in town for the Little League program to play at, which would mean they would have to shut down for 2 years, and Adam is the president of that. Is that kind of a?
I think you misunderstood, Ms. Milowski. I didn't say that you should shut down the Little League fields. I'm thinking, maybe business as usual, maybe not invest in it, and they would have to play subpar a little bit on those fields for another year or two while you were actually building the Field of Dreams on Pond Street. So I did not suggest that we put a police station or anything else on top of the ball fields, but instead of trying to jerry-rig the ball fields, think in the future, put it in another location, live with what we have, because I did understand that you don't want to lose the Little League fields. And if we had to borrow from one Little League field, we'd still have another Little League field there, especially since the softball people have acquiesced and said they just want one big field. What was I going to say? So Brad Brothers said that those fields, I asked him, and the fields at the elementary school, he thought they were going to be able to be played on earlier this spring. And I said, I thought it'd take, all right, well then, somebody correct Brad. So, but anyway, I'm not saying get rid of the ball fields. I'm saying maybe invest the money. They've been playing on it. I know it sucks. It doesn't, I'm pardon my language. I know it's not a great place to play right now, but maybe, I don't see the rush. Hold on, do it right. I feel like we're spending a little bit of money here and there instead of waiting till we have enough money to do it right. And then maybe we could start looking at Pond Street and really do a really nice field so nobody has to suffer. But I do feel that the field people are kind of too bad that the playground is causing them to have to wait for something they need.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Rob Reardon, 30 Priscilla Mullins Way. I've been a resident for 20 years. I'm a dad, baseball coach, soccer coach. I've spent a lot of time on these fields. These fields are deplorable. I've wrecked many sneakers trying to get the water off these fields. I love this plan. My family, my wife, we both love it. Talking to many of the families who are involved in organized sports, they also love it. To me, it makes sense to have fields in the same spot as your playground. I know if it was 10 years ago, I could have my oldest son playing baseball. My youngest son could actually be playing on the playground. I like the way this is going. I think it's the right spot. I hope you back this idea. Besides the police station, separate from this, I just think it makes sense to put all this together. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Evening, Dan Badger, 165 Plymouth Street. My question isn't so much, questions aren't so much about placement, but have more to do with the efficiency and of the plan itself. I just want to be clear on which budget some of these. I circled a couple things on the map, and one of them indicates a garage portion removed from the EMS facility. I didn't know if that was coming out of this chunk of funds that we're talking about, or perhaps the police station project, if it was out of that budget. I was just curious.
Coming out of neither.
Oh.
That's a future phase when one of the Little League fields just switched around. So I think that's phase 3 or 4.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there are many phases, but yeah, I just wasn't sure if that was part of that. The other concern I had, and this mostly goes to the issue of efficiency with actually executing projects, and that was, you had mentioned that irrigation may be bumped to a later phase. When my understanding with the infrastructure of a lot of these fields, or any facility, is that irrigation includes water coming in and out, and that's something that has to be laid out and at least roughed out before sod and soils and things like that are put down and money is spent on those things. And so I was curious as to why it was suggested that that could be bumped to a later phase.
So just to clarify, the existing conditions today is that the green areas in the infields, they have an existing well that's functioning for the Little League fields right now.
Sure.
What the site had is that when it was originally designed, it had 2 wells on the site to, in essence, bifurcate the property and have one well hit one side and the other well hit the other side. One of the wells, as I understand it, got hit by lightning, and it shattered the casing going down in there. The Little League group didn't have enough money to put a new well in, so what they did is they plumbed the irrigation lines from the busted well onto the good well, and they had one well trying to feed the whole field. And with that, they burn out pumps. Now, fields are irrigated, they burn out pumps, but that's what they should because the pumps are overworking. When this gets all built, you have the existing irrigation already there. The elements that I talked about were to replace the well that got shattered to actually get it back to 2-well system. And that's the pieces that I would say would be held off of, because you still have enough capacity today to do the existing the existing ball field area, recreation area, without putting in the second well. When you go to phases 2, 3, and 4, you do need to have that other well put on to do it properly.
Sure. Yeah, no, the well, again, that's the source of the water. I'm thinking more of the infrastructure of the irrigation system itself. Both the imagine over this new softball field with soccer field overlay, that is I would assume a new irrigation system.
So again, that's
there.
a future phase.
That's a future phase.
That's a future phase.
Okay.
So we're only talking about, in essence, rebuilding the infields, the infields on each one of these. Now, the 2 softball, that's dirt. You don't water the dirt, per se. You know, it's the infields here that would be sod on this one and sod replaced on that one. The wells there, which applies the water, the trunk lines there to get it to the well heads and the irrigation lines, so those do exist today. We would reuse those in phase 1.
But the 2 infields on the right of the diagram, the 2 lower ones, especially the one orientated the incorrect way, that now is going to be left field of the new ball field, correct?
In future phase.
In a future phase. Okay. Okay.
So that's why when the question was asked, worst case scenario, if we had to push something off, I'd be pushing off the replacement of the well that got destroyed.
Sure.
And the connection to that well. Because we don't have it today. We should have it, but we don't have it today. We could survive without it. We need it for future phases in the growing, but that would be the piece that would be delayed.
So to be clear, the pretty colors that are green and dark brown, that's phase 1.
I'm going to ask Tom just to confirm.
Okay, that was my because when I look at the project and I wasn't clear on how many phases there are for that second 750, and then so I guess my questions have been answered. Thank you. All right.
Other questions from the audience? Or the committee? Ma'am?
Hello, my name is Peg Hayes. I live at 144 South Main Street. My concern here tonight is the same as it's been for a while, and it regards the destruction of the playground that we have now and building a new one with the taxpayers' money after we've already funded one. And I ask that you consider bringing this, letting it be a warrant at town meeting so that more people can be aware of this part of the project. In my limited, but I'm trying to get out there more and more, hear more people. I work at the school, the elementary school, and I work with children, and the more people I talk to, the more surprised I am that folks have no idea exactly what the plan is moving forward. Completely supportive of ball fields and police officers and everyone. Just my point is that there are a lot of people who don't understand the entire project's potential for our whole town. Believe it or not, there's still a lot of people who don't know. So my question to you is, would you consider letting this go on to the April annual town meeting so that more people can be involved in the voting and understanding what's going on a little more? Thank you.
Well, the way the Community Preservation Act works is we, as a Community Preservation Committee, are tasked with reviewing any project that any entity in the town wants to do, and making a decision as to whether it's a feasible project or not, whether we agree with it or not. We can then vote up or down. If we vote up to say yes, it's a feasible project, it then gets sent on to town meeting. If we vote no, it never makes it to the light of town meeting. So I understand what you're saying, but that, just so you you and the audience at large understands, the process. We're here to listen, to take into account all of the things that are being said, and then make our decision as to whether to move it on or not.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add to that, and thank you for that question. I think it's important to recognize that the CPC, in essence, acts as the executive body for the CPC funds and only the CPC funds. So their recommendation has to go to the legislative body, which is town meeting, to vote on a warrant article. Just like the school committee is the executive body for the school budget, but their budget is approved by town meeting. Just like the selectmen are the executive body for every other budget, but for those two in the town, but that's only after town meeting approves the budget. To make things even easier, our warrant article that we have proposed, assuming the CPC recommends to bring it to town meeting, that this article on this building for $600,000 would be article number 1 at town meeting. No confusion, it's straight out there, and it'll be the first article on the agenda for selectmen, for the townspeople to know it's coming, because we've tried to be as transparent as possible, and certainly with Facebook, there's a lot of discussion that's out there, but that's why we want it to be the first article that goes. And again, it'll be asking for $600,000 allocation for phase 1 of the project. One other point that I want to make too is you mentioned taxpayer funds, and this $600,000 is not new money. This $600,000 is money the CPC today has sitting in an account waiting to be spent on a viable project. So it's not new money. It did come from the taxpayers, but it's sitting in a bank account, in a savings account, waiting for the right project to invest in. As a matter of fact, they have $1.9 million sitting in an account, waiting for the right projects, and they're being asked to spend $600,000 on this project. The second thing is that this entire project is not going to increase the tax rolls of anybody in town. We have our existing tax base. This isn't asking for any additional money, it's to stay within the tax base that we have. It's not new money. And then, I know we're not gonna talk about the police station, but where the police station is currently proposed to be located, as has been proven by the professionals that have presented the plans, is going to save us hundreds of thousands of dollars in construction costs. So there's a net savings by building the police station on the 18-year-old playground. It's not costing more net money to the town.
I agree with most of what you're saying, Mr. Milanowski, but I would point out that it's not $1.9 million that's available. It's not $900,000 that's available, of which those monies are, some of those monies are earmarked actually
And then 600 of housing in.
into open space, but we have monies that are actually earmarked for, under the requirements of the Community Preservation Act, we have to have monies that we put aside every year for open space, for historic preservation, and for affordable housing. And so we've actually got those 3 buckets of money that build every year if we don't spend money on it. So our historic preservation and our affordable housing has been building every year. So we in fact have money available, but it's not 100% available. We are very we try to be very careful in terms of the money that we're spending, in terms of getting the best bang for the buck for the town. And, we think in the past, we've done some pretty good projects that have really benefited the town, and we intend to continue that. Yeah.
My name is Emily Stile. I live at 195 Meadow Street. I am a newcomer in town. I've only lived here for a couple of years. I approached the mic because I'm feeling dissonance in terms of the committee name, Community Preservation Committee. And I just heard you say the distinct responsibilities that are under this umbrella. And as I've registered on a confusion that in town about this plan kind of going forward without sufficient time to look at some of the ingredients. I feel a dissonance with regard to the Community Preservation Committee, and I'm feeling the tension that exists about going in this direction that in fact feels like the opposite of community preservation. And I just want to register kind of that sensibility, even as I think people have been trying to do due diligence. There's a dissonance in the air that I feel as a newcomer to town, and I'm not sure what the solution to it is, but I wanted to voice my opinion.
Thank you. Ms. Ryan?
Oh, I just want to, can I come up here a minute to go over here?
Sure.
Oh, there it is. I think everybody wants to hear me, but anyway. I want to be Mike. Curious, so you're not charged with spending the money just because you have it, correct? Like you can, like you said, it's been building up. All right, so you don't have to spend it if you don't think the project is worth it. It's not like you have to get rid of it. You start out-
Correct.
Just clarify.
Correct.
So, I guess I don't have any issue, well, here's what I have an issue with, but we keep talking about we need money, we're gonna be short of money. And if you really wanna build a ball field, like I said, if you pull this playground out of it, then you would have the money for the ball field. And there's actually, I know Mr. Malinowski told the Recreation Committee a while ago not to touch this, but technically, I believe here on is town property. It's 3 Carver Square Boulevard, and there's parking there, and the softball people use it for parking on weekends anyway. But there's a green corridor here. And it's a nice corridor because if you put a little park there, you would stop the cars from going through, because as Mr. Kelly knows, you can't have egress over that property because it's a condo. But people can come and park and walk. People can come and park and picnic or have a playground. So when I see that and think about it, I keep saying this is rushed. I think you need more time to really do a better job. Because this is, I think it's very congested, and I think that if we had more time, we might come up with a better plan. And I would think that the committee, if they felt they needed to give money to the ball fields, wouldn't feel that that would have to be part of it. And I know you have good intentions and you probably have a lot of contacts, but, I can't say I hope, I wish, I believe. I mean, if something concrete, if you said, yeah, so-and-so says we're gonna give you some money, that'd be fine. Now, I know the ball people want a playground, and I think I said that the rec committee, I got a lot of things donated. It's a lot easier to go to someone and say, can you donate some swings for us? Can you donate, it's a lot easier to sell a playground than it is lights for a ball field. So if you want your ball field, go try to fundraise think about putting it here where you don't have to squeeze it in and it's just too congested. So, and I really, this is not about ball field playground, this is about long-term thinking. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a playground with swings and slides, and I want to say swings and slides because I really feel the municipal playground is more of a park area, but why not look at that? Why not wait? Don't rush in and don't feel, I wonder if you could separate this out from the vote. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm thinking, and just because you have it doesn't mean you have to spend it. It is tax money. We did already spend money originally on a playground. And like I said, you can, even if the school committee, even though that building did not come out of the school budget when they bought it, it's town property. Most of the activity would be after the hours of 3 o'clock on weekends when there's nothing going on here. So I think we got to get off our focus. We have the big picture because that's what we heard about the complex. And part of me, I'm going to say it, and people might get angry, I feel sometimes that if we weren't moving this playground, that the ball field people won't be getting their ball fields. And it's almost like it's on the back of the playground that we get to have the architects come. Because there's got to be some kind of connection. And it's not against anyone, but I feel like that's how it's connected. If there was no, if we didn't have to move this playground, who would be paying for the architect? I don't know. My husband brought that question up. And I did look at the Collins report, and back here they talk about the Center Street site. So what happens, and since this report came out, we have more restrictions on the Center Street site for the police station. So potentially, they might get into the police station and say, you can't put an impervious structure around these wells, because that's what this report originally said, why they didn't want the police station on the Center Street site was because asphalt and parking lot is impervious structure in buildings, and the police station has a lot of buildings. So if you vote all for this, and then you find out you really can't build the best police station there, then what are you gonna do? The West hasn't been surveyed, hasn't been perked. There's a lot of asphalt here, there's a lot of utilities here. And I almost think that too bad the playground couldn't go up front, like I said once at the recreation meeting, so that people could access it without getting into the ball area. So if you want a community playground for a community, why couldn't we figure something out with the parking? That's what I mean. I don't like the plan. It's not that I don't want the ball fields to have swings and slides, but I think, and I do have a little bit of background on it, but who cares? I mean, I've done my research, I've looked at the deeds, I think it's been short-sighted. So I think we could do a better job with this. That's what it is.
Just as one note, prior to any of this discussion of the police building being located where they're proposing it, there was discussion with the rec committee about the importance of doing the ball fields, and that the ball fields were the next item that needed to be handled in terms of recreational aspects. So that's definitely been on our radar for over a year, well before any other discussions about moving the police station. The ball fields were definitely in our site. Sir.
I'm gonna do a little walk and talk if I can. I need to use that. So again, I'm not gonna go back and forth, but I think there are a couple points I wanna say. As somebody who's coached baseball, who's been a dad, who's been at these games, who's spent hours and hours and hours at these ball fields. In my opinion, this is the right spot. Why? Think about it. Right now I have a 15 and a 12-year-old, 3 years difference. So when we're on the ball field with a 7-year-old, you have a 4-year-old that's running around. We need to keep that 4-year-old active, busy. This is the perfect spot for him, running around, playing in swings. That way, his mom or his dad can actually still watch the other sibling while it's going on. To me, it seems like a great location. This isn't anything new. This is done in many communities. Anyone who's been involved in the Cape Cod Baseball League, how many of those fields have playgrounds at them? It's great, because honestly, for those younger kids, baseball is boring. So having a playground there that they can use is phenomenal. Now, as far as, I've lived here for 20 years, so I've seen the way things have transformed. I think the way that this is going in the middle of town is great. I don't want to see a playground or ball fields over by the high school. I think it makes sense where it is. I think this is great. I'm glad that the CPC is involved. I'm glad that we're coming to you for money. Again, I hope you support this. I think it's a great plan, honestly. Thank you.
Ma'am?
Emily Slavin, 179 Main Street. I'm going to talk as a resident of this town my entire life. I think it's important that you guys vote yes to let it go to town meeting so that the town can make a decision and they can be the voice. And then they will decide how they feel about having the playground. So as a resident, I feel that. As the part-time recreation coordinator, I just want to make it clear that there was a lot of thought put into this. I do not vote as the part-time recreation coordinator, but I attended every meeting, and there was a bunch of them, and they talked about it, and they did talk about putting it in the front. Honestly, right away, that's where I thought I wanted it. That was what I said. You know, I also thought about when they tore it down, putting it there. They went through all of that, and we were lucky enough to have Tom to kind of help us through that process. Whether it was because of the police station or not, he was able to help us figure out, okay, that's not going to fit. We did a walkthrough with the town. So I just want to make it clear, Mary Ross is not here as the chairperson, and I want to make it clear that we did have a lot of meetings, a lot of discussion. I don't think, yes, and we came to you guys about the ball fields. I was at that meeting too. But I think really thinking about it, when we talked about the playground, I just want everybody to know there was a lot of effort put into this. We are looking forward, if this goes forward, we're looking to involve the town to see what should be put in that playground. Talking to, I forget your name, I'm sorry, but teachers and people who, looking at different types of equipment that would be different than the school. And all of these conversations are being had during our meetings. And we do plan on talking about it in March, if it's going to go forward, talking about in March, like what type of things would we want in there, going to visit them. So I just want to be clear that the Recreation Committee did put time and effort into this, so, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Catherine Banzel, 51 Woodhaven Street. I am a lifelong resident of this town, and the fields, I had to endure my brothers playing Little League. And I don't know if you recall, there was an announcer's booth back behind home plate a long time ago. And to spend time, we used to play in that, the siblings. And I was unfortunate and fell out of the window. That was the second-story window, and had to be rushed to the hospital because there was nothing for me to do. Years later, as a parent, I had one son who played, another one didn't. And I had to keep an eye on him the whole entire time, so I couldn't watch my son playing. I think having this playground right there, it's the best of both worlds for parents. You know your kid is in a safe place. It's going to be the best equipment, up to date and safety standards, and you can still watch your child play. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Good evening. My name is Adam Holmes, 12 Leonard Street, and I am the, as I've told you before, the Carver Cranberry League baseball president of the Carver Cranberry League here in town, and I have been for the last 4 years. I've been a member of the board for 6. So I think it's safe to say that I've spent more time down at this particular complex over the last 6 years than anyone else here in town, just with the amount of time that we put into volunteering, field maintenance, and fun for the kids here in town. So I've been part of this conversation since before it came to, before it was originally brought up a year or so ago with you about improving these fields because of the deplorable condition of the infields. They are essentially a safety risk at this point for a number of the kids. We do the best we can with it. We maintain it as best we can out of our own pockets with a lot of volunteers, a lot of hard work, a lot of donations from businesses here in town, and a lot of candy bars, sodas, and pretzels out of the snack shack. So, a couple things that have become abundantly clear throughout this process in the last 4, 5, 6 months is I've yet to meet a resident here in town that doesn't think we need a municipal playground. Everybody wants a playground in town. I've often referred to it as the most sensitive passion project in the history of this town, that playground that's over there now. I would like to make sure that we have a playground going forward, and as it looks right now, we don't, right? We need to find a solution to that problem. The plan in front of you provides a solution to that problem. The fields need repairs. I have yet to meet somebody throughout this entire process, even opponents to moving the playground, as Dagmar shared earlier, that are proponents and fans of improving the fields. This plan accomplishes that. I personally have advocated privately and openly, publicly, that a playground is needed at the ball fields for reasons that have already been shared. The space where the proposed playground would go is by far the busiest and most active area of the entire complex. The difference between the proposed plan and what exists on the ground now, existing conditions, is that area is a parking lot. And it is by far the most active area of the entire complex. We have our snack shack there. There's a small picnic area, place for families to congregate. But kids are running around throughout that playground, throughout the parking lot that's there now, where the playground would be. It is, without a doubt, the most obvious location for a proposed playground when you look at the site. Also, the parking's a nightmare. This plan would address the parking. So I'm here tonight to just ask for you to please consider approving the project, sending it to town meeting for the citizens to vote. I'm confident that if the citizens see this plan, hear that it was well thought out, understand that it accomplishes providing the town with the municipal playground that everybody wants, and at the same time makes significant upgrades to the baseball fields that are very needed, that everybody would be happy with the proposal if they were given the opportunity to consider it. I do understand that it is a sensitive topic to move the playground, but I think this is a feasible solution that's within our reach, that can be done under the existing tax levy without any tax increase. There's a lot of conversation on social media about people's taxes going up because of a $1.6 million project. That's not what's happening here. And that's not what we're asking of you. So I'm just asking you to please support this project, vote yes, and put it through the town meeting for the citizens to do the same. Thank you.
And I'll restate, no, your taxes are not going up.
This is not for that anyway.
Not for this project.
Oh, yeah.
Just for a little detail in that, your taxes are not going up for this project. But every year, taxes go up because of Prop 2.5, 2.5 to 2.8% on average across the town. That has nothing to do with this project. It's just Prop 2.5 that the state approves. So taxes go up every year no matter what. We're just saying they're not going to go up more because of this project.
Correct.
This is being built within what already exists.
Correct.
Right, Fran?
I'm listening.
Are there other comments? Ma'am?
One more thing to say, I'm sorry. Peg Hayes, 144 South Main Street, one more time. I'm not really well-versed in any of this, but I'm trying. I just don't understand what the heck happened to the Collins report, why we're here talking about building another playground. Why didn't we go by anything that came from that Collins report that we did pay for? I've lived here for 33 years, raised 2 daughters. I have a granddaughter here now. I want those ball fields to be beautiful too. They deserve it. I just feel that if we went by the Collins report that we had already paid for, and we might not be here right now, and I guess I'm confused. I am actually very confused why we're at this point and why we didn't pay heed, or whatever the correct terminology, I don't know. But the money that we'd be spending or talking about spending for another playground could be going to these ball fields, and the siding would be what was put forth through the Collins report. Thank you.
Well, we're not really here tonight to discuss the Collins report. And, you know, we're here to act on what the Board of Selectmen handed us, so that, I think that's where we stand at this point.
Could I just say, though, Ms. Hayes, if you feel that way, then you've got to attend town meeting. That's really the place to address that.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could address the Collins report, and having worked with the Collins Center on several reports that we've had them do for the town, I think it's very important to recognize what the scope and the professional capability was of the Collins Center, which was the University of Massachusetts in Boston, having some of their faculties do for the town. Their focus for the Collins Center was on putting together financial plans. And they looked at the police station, looked at the fire station, looked at the combined police station, they looked at the schools. They were driven more from a financial analysis of what needs to be done. They didn't have someone like Tom, who was a professional architect or landscape architect on the team. They didn't have in the Collins report a professional police architect, nor a professional fire architect. That was not what their scope of work was. Their scope of work was focused more on financing and how the town, with limited resources, can fund projects. Yes, they did comment on site locations, but it wasn't from expertise that was built into the study. It was from external communication that's happened. And just like all reports, as we've heard, is when the original playground was designed, there was a square set aside to build a police station. Well, we should follow that. But as we found out through our experts, our landscape architect, our police expert, our police chief, our police department, when we looked at the space needs, first of all, you don't build a square police station. And second of all, it never had a development program. So a report can say something, but if it wasn't tasked to study that, then it's not complete. And that's my point, is the Collins Center did not put together a development program for a police station, did not have a police architect on board, did not have a professional landscaper, did not have those tasks available to do that level of analysis, because that was not their job.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Ms. Ryan?
We need you to use the microphone.
Oh, I can do that one? Hi. Dagmar Ryan, 14 Rolling Way. I have the Collins report in front of me, and it does say that they were tasked to look for facilities. In fact, their focus was merely looking for a site, and then how to fund that site. So it's a bit of semantics. But what I hear a lot about is, oh, it's passionate, the playground is, and I want to call it a park because it's more than swings and slides. And it's you know, it's been a big, you know, emotional issue. And like, you know, my kids are grown. And, you know, my girls played t-ball for a while and hardball, and they were like, they moved on. We played soccer. My husband was, got the grant for the library. He was a selectman. He was on the finance committee. Him and Joe Kaminsky got the capital funding. I mean, we've been involved in the nitty-gritty of the town forever. He's a lifelong resident. I'm not. Been here long enough. Our blood is in here. He got the gazebo going. We had the people from Old Colony. I helped with that. I came the town hall renovation. His name's there, or whatever. So I really get a feel for how things work and planning or whatever. And my heart's in the right place. So I'm not looking at this. Oh, I really like the playground, and I don't really want it because I like it. No, it's got nothing to do with that. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm pretty practical. I'm not a drama mama. I just looked at it and go, this makes no sense. And I looked at the facts, and I looked at the deeds, and I looked at the plot plans. So I'm not being placated, and I just want to make sure, I like to be informed. You know, that's what I am. I'm someone who looks at detail, I'm more analytical, not emotional. So, like I said, for the poor people, it might be easier to, you know, fundraise for swings and slides, or whatever, and then get your primary focus. Sure, if you want to put it there, but we're talking about, and it is a municipal park. People walk their dogs, they walked around in circles on the bike path, or the walking path is asphalt. It was a community playground, and we felt very comfortable looking for community funds because it was for everybody. And, you know, what about, I remember I went to rec committee, and I said, what about the people who don't want to be in the middle of ball fields? And I believe this gentleman over here said, well, then they can go behind, if they don't like sports, they can go home behind the elementary school because they play after school and on weekends. So I guess that's, we'll tell other people that don't want to be involved. Not everybody's going to be comfortable going there. I'm not saying you shouldn't have it, but don't think the whole community is comfortable going there right now. And I'm sure it will get a lot of use during the ball season. I'm sure a lot of people, I'm not saying that it won't get used a ton, right? I remember Mr. Holmes saying, believe me, if we put it up there, they will come. There will be a lot of use. But we are forgetting about a huge population of various ages, whether they're 2 years old or 80 years old, that does make use of a facility where it is now. And if it does have to be moved, I would think that we could, I mean, maybe we have two then. You know what I mean? Maybe you get your swings and slides and you fundraise, and we can use that money for a real community park. All right? And that's all I'm going to say tonight.
Okay. As long as there's no other comments, I think what we'll do is we'll take this under advisement. It was initially my intent to have a vote tonight. However, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, one of our members, Jason Pecorelli, had a family tragedy, and he wasn't able to make it tonight. And we feel it would be, he's been attending every meeting, and we feel it's important to have the entire committee vote. So we will be voting on this next Thursday at our meeting on March 7th. So, sorry if people were expecting a vote, but things happen. We have one other proposal that's come before us tonight to take up. It's provided to us from the Carver Housing Authority. They came in looking for roofing replacement. They're asking for $91,633. This is for Meadowbrook North. In our discussions with the Carver Housing Authority, because at one point we felt we weren't sure, but we found that the Carver Housing Authority is actually an agency under the Department of Housing and Community Development under the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's not, so it may say Carver Housing Authority, but it is in no way associated with the town of Carver. So they're looking for roofing replacement. And what they've come in and asked us is, as a state agency, they're asking for town funds to be supplanting state, what should be, at least in some of our thinking, should be state funds. So there are a number of questions that I know the committee has, and they asked them of the proponents when they came in, and I don't know that the committee has any other questions or comments at this point. I believe Mr. Malinowski has some comments that he'd like to make.
I think I've made those before to the committee, but just to echo those, you know, as the chairman mentioned, it is a quasi-state organization. The Housing Authority, 4 members are elected locally and 1 is appointed by the governor. But they do get their money from the state to maintain that asset. And right now, the town is working on a survey townwide of everyone that's 55 and older to determine what the needs are of the community. And I think that given the limited funds that you have available, that it would probably be best to look at funding needs that are Carver needs versus state needs to support a state-funded operation. Because the state will always come through with the money that they need to do for that property. Again, that's your decision to recommend that to town meeting, but you know, I would encourage the committee to focus on A, let's wait till the study's done and figure out what the needs are. And B, when you find out what the needs are, try to focus on Carver needs that Carver taxpayers should be paying for versus funding elements that the state should be paying for through the housing authority.
Questions or comments from the committee? Any questions or comments from the audience? Ms. Ryan?
Is the roof that needs to be replaced on the state side or the Carver side, or is that mixed up? I don't know if that was separate out there. I don't know.
So there's two facilities that's out there. One is South Shore Housing, that's off to the right, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about tonight. The one to the left is the Housing Authority, which is the housing authority under the state.
Oh. And they want the roof. They need the roof.
And they've been getting funding for roofs periodically, yes.
Oh, we know it's state.
Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, we will take this under advisement and vote on this at our meeting next Thursday, for the same reasons as I stated before. That essentially concludes the information for the public meeting, and I will declare the public meeting closed. Thank you all for coming, and hope to see you in future meetings. This is a great turnout for the Community Preservation Committee. We love good turnout, so please come again.
Yes.
Not yet.
We do have to vote to adjourn. but
Yes, we
he
do,
doesn't-
but
He
we
doesn't
don't-
want to do that
We
yet,
don't, we have to set our next meeting.
which is next Thursday, right?
So our next meeting is next Thursday,
Yeah,
March 7th.
yeah.
So do we set the meeting for next Thursday, 7 o'clock. I'll post it, get everything out to everybody. I'll probably post it for meeting room 4
Okay, downstairs.
downstairs.
Okay.
And is there any other business?
Meeting room 3. 3, meeting room
4
3.
downstairs.
She texted me if she should call in. I told her no vote was going to be taken.
Okay.
I told her to go back to the bar.
More cocktails, please.
All right, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Now we gotta go in.